Everything we know, from people and ants to stars and galaxies to quarks and atoms, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer inside an even bigger universe. Ancient philosophers said that the universe is a dream that we're waiting to wake up from. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. All cultural items, from the dreams of our rodent-like ancestors, to books, to television shows, are merely permutations of the reality we think we live in. Today's age of computers and video games places simulations at the center of our cultural consciousness. A select group of us perform simulations for fun and profit, and we call them games, role-playing and otherwise. We live to run simulations. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Simulationist podcast. We're on the 120th iteration of the show, recording this on the winter solstice, December 21st, 2014. A lot of 20s in that. The long 100, 120, that's 10 dozen.
Yes. Which means also that we're only like 24 away from getting one gross episode.
Awesome, yes.
So does that mean we're going to have to make like a gross out episode? I don't know. I mean, we want to try and keep things kind of classy, but on the other hand, one gross, well, it kind of rates itself.
Well, we're not that classy a podcast.
We try and keep things, like without that much swearing. Only swearing where it's appropriate and emphatic.
I wasn't even... swearing is one dimension of classiness, or non-swearing is one dimension of classiness. It takes a lot more other things to be truly classy. I should introduce myself and my co-host, as always. I am Josh Trelevin, and my co-host, as always,
Ryan Kirkby. Here to guzzle pop and fuel ideas.
Yeah, hopefully you guys have been listening along for the last, 2 years or something like that.
Just over 2 years now.
Getting lots of ideas from us. And
what's the fun thing about podcasts is they maybe aren't listening, to the back stuff yet. Maybe by the time they're listening to this, it's like 5 years in the future. Our ideas now span time itself. It's not just, I have an idea, and then it disappears into like the ether of your mind. This is, now that we're putting it out, this is something that could last as long as there's proper hosting facilities on the internet.
That's true. Absolutely. So we could have listeners in the far future. Hello, future listeners.
We could have listeners that aren't even born yet as we're recording this.
We have one more to record within this year, so we can't say it's our last 2014. Although it's coming up to the end of the year. But anyway.
Yeah, surprisingly quick. Cool. Yes, it's also the shortest day of the year.
Yeah, I guess people listening will be at least tomorrow because we upload it.
Welcome back to the upswing of the length of the solar day.
Yeah, I guess you're starting a new cycle or whatever.
Or, if it's cold and miserable where you are, you can at least console yourself. No, the days are getting longer. It's starting to turn. It's not going to remain this cold and this bitter for that much longer. Although I've been told the weather throughout most of Canada this year is doing very mild. Knock on wood. Let's not jinx ourselves. Let's not jinx Eastern Canada into another ice storm like they have every other year, right?
Well, yeah, I don't want to expect another ice storm, but I do, winter tends to, what is the word, when it follows, winter doesn't...
multi-year pattern cycling?
No, what I'm trying to say is the seasons, they sort of lag, as far as the daylight goes.
Oh, yeah, it takes a while before you get enough energy in the system to build up until you can notice, hey, it's not that cool out at all today. I guess I'll just wear a sweater instead of a jacket.
Yeah, so usually that first half, actually, they don't even consider the beginning of winter to start until the solstice. So, technically, happy winter, everybody. Because the seasons lag a little bit, because there's solar energy in the ground itself that gradually gets released, and then the oceans move a little quicker, so...
But still, for the purposes of weathering out the rest of the winter, you can console yourself saying the days are getting longer. It's going to start warming up again. I've gone through the short day cycle, the long winters.
Yeah, it's going to get brighter. It may still.
I can have the windows open at 5 o'clock, soon, sort of thing, or the curtains open on the windows at 5 o'clock, and it won't be completely pitch black outside. It's going to get a little bit sunnier, a little bit better off that way.
But I want to say, enjoy the darkness while you can, because,
I do not sleep as well as I do in the winter when the nights are just so darn dark.
Yeah, it's nice.
Sometimes in the summer, especially, if you're, up far north enough, it's like you're looking at the one, end of the horizon, you're like, the sun is finally setting, and then you look over at the other side, and it's like, is it getting brighter on that side already? It's just getting good and dark. I'm not going to get a good night's sleep. It's already starting to get sunrise going on. So the winter, at least you can say, it's been dark for a little while. You get that whole blanket of night. You just nestle yourself down into bed. It's like, the all-consuming blackness of the night, just, like a cover on me. Sleep well.
Well, there you go. So a happy solstice to those of you who are listening roughly around the time of the solstice, and for all of you other people...
Or for every year-based delay you're listening to this to.
Yeah, and for all the others, greetings from the depth of the solstice.
We come to you from the darkest day.
Not too dark. I mean, considering how the world is, we're not doing that badly. We got a lot to be thankful for about being, having a house.
I do kind of wish
to work.
that Black Friday didn't happen until the solstice sort of thing. So that way you call it Black Friday because it is truly the darkest day of the year. But gotta get your Christmas shopping in early, I suppose.
So what do we want to talk about simulation-wise? Should we do our personal adventures first?
I don't know. I think there's a good story to be told about fiction and how the power it has within reality, because of the movie The Interview.
Yeah, I think a lot of podcasts are probably going to be at least touching on the interview because it's a big story and it's very interesting.
We can't do a review of it. Oh, actually, no. Technically, we can because apparently North Korea has leaked it onto the internet. You can go and you can find it and you can watch it, because apparently, it's out there now.
I didn't actually know that detail. That's actually kind of amusing that sort of, in their narrative, the North Koreans would leak the movie itself and then sort of claim that the movie being released was what was their motivation or whatever. The movie not being released. Because basically, I mean, if you don't know the story, The Interview is a typical Hollywood comedy, stupid movie about two guys who get hired by the CIA to kill the leader of North Korea, who's Kim Jong-un. And then it's hijinks ensue, and I don't know what happens in the end because I haven't actually seen it.
I do recall from the trailers being some scenes where they're trying to train them as to how to assassinate, and things go hilariously wrong.
Yeah, it looks really
The poison gets misapplied, and such and so forth. It's like, I sat on the poison. There's poison in my bum now. So
yeah. I guess those ads have been pulled. We're living
I've been seeing them on TV.
Yeah, at the moment, because something happened where Sony, they were subject to a cyber attack and a bunch of their information.
I think it was 5 movies got released, but the big one was The Interview because that was the reason for the hacking.
Yeah, and a bunch of their stuff got released to the media, leaked out, and so they're in damage control mode, and then. It was somebody made a threat somewhere that they would blow up a theater.
There'd be 9/11 style attacks for theaters that run The Interview on its opening day of Christmas, effectively.
Yeah, and then so the theater said, "Well, we can't,
I won't do that. I don't want to risk this."
Yeah, we can't risk it because that's especially in these days. We have had a few. Movie theater attacks, with guns or whatever.
Yeah, but those are usually just crazy people. You don't see North Korea trying to plan that on foreign soil. They may be a little crazy, but to actually plan an attack on American soil, that is very, very easy way to say you're declaring war.
Could be. There's no direct. That's the thing. There's no direct link. There's no saying because when somebody some news organization was like, okay, hey, North Korea, did you do this? And they said, I don't know, maybe not.
Because North Korea is wacky that way. They may be evil, but they're the wacky kind of evil sometimes, where it's just like, maybe we did, maybe we didn't.
And so, yeah, you have to obviously. Well, I suppose in the world of international politics, I don't know if you need a smoking gun necessarily, because as we learned 10 years ago in Iraq, you don't need that smoking gun. But
you can just go invade, say it's that.
I mean, if we're getting into geopolitics, America's like sort of moral currency is not worth a lot right now, just with all the torture stuff coming out. Of course, it was stuff that we kind of already knew, but there's just more.
I think it's nice that it's officially out, so that they can't pretend to hide it anymore. At least that's going on.
Yeah, so it's very difficult for America to say, "Hey, you, North Korea, you're torturing your prisoners."
But in this case, you're doing cyber terrorist attacks.
Yeah, so there's that. Okay, so yeah, so that's the story.
So that's the official story and all that sort of thing. And Obama, like he went on, like doing his like state of the whatever address he did earlier this week, and he said, I'm disappointed that Sony didn't come to me first before like withdrawing its official release date and all that. Mm-hmm. And that got me thinking. I saw some advertisements, for the movie. It's like, I don't think I'd go watch it. If it's on TV, maybe I'll watch it then. I'm not going to go pay the $15 to go watch it, sort of thing.
I probably would have seen it. I watched Team America at some point. I watched it on video. So.
But Team America's
not video. It would have been DVD. No, it would have been iTunes, I guess.
Team
America. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of weird when you have to double check your dates to figure out what format you've watched.
What year did that come out in?
Just at the end of VHS's life, so we probably would have seen it on DVD, but not before Blu-ray conquered the HD Blu-ray fights. But yeah, the thing with Team America though is it's from the duo that brings the world the South Park series, and so that they're going to be delicious. Their parody is amazingly good. Sort of thing, it's the kind of parody where you don't feel that insulted even if they're knocking against you.
Was it a parody of something? Is that what that was?
There was parody, there was satire, weird mannequin sex scene. There's a lot of that's another one of the things they do is it's not just one or the other with them. They multi-layer it. It's like a 7-layer dip of delicious comedy with them.
Okay, all right. I guess you're a big fan then.
I do have a lot of respect for Stone and Parker.
Okay.
Because the more you look at their stuff, the more little nuances you tend to see, and I always appreciate people that give that little extra stuff. Like those who are paying attention will realize we're actually speaking in Chinese or Japanese when we're doing this sort of stuff, and we're actually saying things. It's like, oh, very nice. If I knew the language, I'd know what you were saying. I'll have to go online to figure it out. So okay. I do appreciate that.
Sure.
So thank you guys.
Thank you for your service, Matt Parker and Trey Stone. Is that, or did I get those backwards?
That's why I just call them Parker and Stone. It sounds almost like a law firm that way. But yes, so Obama goes on, and he's mentioning the movie, the interview, and all that, and it occurs to me, I got nothing against any of the guys, any of the producers. Nobody in the movie is like someone I would not see, but it's also not. There's no names in there that I got to see it because so and so is connected to it. Mm-hmm. But if North Korea doesn't want me to see it, that makes me more inclined to want to look at it. Perhaps from a legal, value, not just illegally download. I actually want to, maybe give this thing a shot. Mm-hmm. And then it occurs to me, it's like Obama mentioned it. The president himself mentioned this movie.
Yeah, and we're talking about it on our podcast, so we're giving it more
That's
coverage.
A lot of free publicity for this thing.
Yeah.
And so that's where we're going to link in for a little conspiracy theory, because I know it's been a little time since I brought out a conspiracy theory for everyone out there to mull over.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Here's your conspiracy theory. Sony hacked themselves, blamed it on North Korea to generate all the publicity they could. They got the president giving them free publicity. Mm-hmm. They got people on the news mentioning it for free publicity. They got podcasters mentioning it for free publicity. Mm-hmm. And they blame North Korea for it. Because you got to blame somebody, right?
Yeah.
It can't just be anonymous every time a hacking occurs.
Well, it occurs to me, I would like to see a movie about the interview. Do you remember Wag the Dog? Did you ever see that movie?
No. I did see Tropic Thunder.
Yeah, I guess there's
which is a story about the story.
Yeah, stories about movies being made and like sort of film produced. Actually, Argo.
The Wizard of Speed and Time. Did you ever see that?
No.
Oh, it was a Disney movie. They've pretty much disowned it. You can find it online. It's on YouTube. They haven't tried to tell YouTube to take it down. And if Disney is not telling YouTube to take it down, you know they don't care about it.
Okay, but what about The Wizard of Speed and Time?
It's about a man who's making a movie.
Yeah.
And the trials and tribulations he goes through in Hollywood of trying to make a movie and get things done.
Yeah, but then there's a class of movies that involve international politics, which is like...
no international politics here, just wacky hijinks and good sight gags.
Yeah, remember Ben Affleck recently did the movie called Argo?
Oh, yes, Argo.
They're making a science fiction film, and this is sort
they
of...
They claim they're making a science fiction film, sort of thing,
exactly.
to bring in the stuff to smuggle the Americans out of a newly overturned Iran.
Yeah. So there's a few movies like that, and some are, like Wag the Dog is a fictional one, but... there's some other ones. But I was thinking, like, it'd be cool if somebody did a follow-up movie to the interview that was sort of like the Producers style. Do you remember the Producers?
I love... Not only do I remember the Producers, within this last week, I have listened to their music.
Okay, cool.
That's how good I am with it. I love it.
So somebody should make like a meta movie, like, a movie about a movie, about, like, what if, Sony decided, okay, we have this scheme, we're gonna pretend that they're North Korean.
Look at how much money this costs us. How are we going to get... We can't afford real publicity. How are we going to do this? And somebody's like, I got some friends, who are living in my basement. They're pretty good at computers. Do you think we could, like, stage a hacking? And bam! I'd watch that movie. That movie stuff.
Yeah,
that movie could work comedy. That movie could work, like in the we're in the cyberspace, like kind of cyberpunk sort of end of things. There's a lot of ways you could take something like that.
Yeah. And it would be sort of international, because I remember, like, reading just some of the news stories and stuff. It's like, oh, this happened, like, they traced one of the hacks to, a hotel in Bangkok, and, another hack was, out of China or something like that. So kind of you could go all around the world and have a real James Bond kind of feel to it, but at the same time...
With, like, a hacker mentality, because, let's face it, hackers was fun. You get there, like, hack the world kind of people. You could root for the villain, you could root for the hero. It doesn't matter who wins in the end, you're still rooting for him.
Yeah, and you could have, like... I would like it because you could have equally funny or stupid characters playing as Seth Rogen and the other guy, I can't remember his name.
Who would you get to be Seth Rogen, but isn't Seth Rogen? Could you get Seth Rogen to be Seth Rogen?
Well, I mean, you could. That would be funny, too. But I was thinking, like, I don't know, find someone who can... Will Ferrell...
Get someone completely inappropriate for it just to make it extra hilarious. Get like a serious actor,
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. Heck, get Ben Affleck to be Seth Rogen. You could have a
Ben Affleck as Seth Rogen. Yeah.
Ben Affleck is known for being able to have fun with his roles.
Sure, yeah, I don't find him that funny, but yeah, I'm sure he could be.
He enjoys it. Even if you're not finding him funny, he's been laughing while it was made, and I guess that makes... I always find the movies better if you know that people are enjoying it. Yeah. Like if everyone's really serious about the movie, it's kind of a like a Debbie Downer, dude.
Yeah, that's another thing about sort of our modern like the way we live nowadays is it really helps to know a bit of a story behind a film. Like
I've been told on one hand it kind of ruins it. Like Waterworld, learning how much money it cost and what was going on here, how much money did it cost to give Kevin Costner a proper diet.
Well, if it's a lousy story, then yeah, it's like business as usual, like cost overruns and there's a little bit of corruption, a little bit of nepotism.
But Adam Sandler's 4th of July sort of thing, where he and his friends, when they're laughing, those are real laughs. There's not like cued laughter. They're goofing off, a bunch of friends having fun, and they managed to get it going. And that's, I think that got a lot more laughter in the audience when we were watching it than, like just the lines themselves. Because real laughter is infectious. And it shows. There's no way to fake that.
I think you can probably fake.
You can fake
real laughter.
You can fake laughter.
Sincerity, you got it made.
You can fake laughter, but not for everybody. The more you can get people to believe it's real laughter, the more laugh is going to be coming off from the audience. And the only way to guarantee everyone seeing it as real laughter is when it is real laughter.
Have you ever heard of this reminds me of that scene from Mary Poppins, but have you ever heard of, like, laugh clubs? I think they did
Do they try and force the laugh? Ha, ha, ha.
Well, basically that's what they start. They just have, it's like a club. It's like a meet-up group, like, you know, meet up, I don't know, twice a month or something like that. And you go in, I don't know if it's a living room or just, you know, I guess you can't laugh in the library or something, but you meet in a wherever, someone's place or something.
Conference room.
Even a church, basement of a church or something. And
Fair
it's
enough.
just a laugh club. That's what, I think they did it on The Daily Show. They had like a little, you know, spotlight segment on these weird people or something like that. And yeah, it's just people get together and they believe that, I mean, it's true, laughing is kind of therapeutic.
It's good. It's decent belly exercise. You get enough good belly laughs. It's the same as doing exercise. Yeah.
They say that. And
that said, I think I'd rather watch, you know, some Just for Laughs comedy and have it come out naturally.
Well, I'm thinking that too, but like the point is, once you get your body moving in that way, I think it really does sort of trigger something to, you know, it triggers
the endorphin release
of real, like, if not absolutely the best possible joy you can get, it's at least something. And so I think even fake laughter is worth a little, you know.
Fake laughter's got some value to it. I mean, clearly, if your boss tells a joke, you should laugh, even if it's not that funny, right? Because, haha, paychecks, yeah, I love them.
Yeah, and it burns that extra calorie, one more calorie.
But that said, if I want to induce laughter, I don't want it to be fake laughter. I will go over on YouTube. I'll find like a comedian's, you know, like comic. I'll find some old Jim Carrey stand-up work, man. I will find that, and I will genuinely laugh.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, there's definitely something to that, the genuine, true...
In this day and age, I think there's very little excuse
involuntary laughter
for forcing laughter. You can find a webcomic you've never read before, a good webcomic that makes you truly laugh. You can find one out there, something you've never read before, witty enough. You can find... You look up, you know, Google knock-knock jokes and find something until you giggle.
Well, I know it definitely feels better to be genuinely, like, sort of induced into laughter instead of just having to start it up yourself.
I think one of the keys to proper comedy is that element of surprise. You don't expect the punchline coming. That's what makes it so good.
Yeah.
That was fake laughter, by the way. It didn't do me any real good. Not in my soul.
Well, I think... I don't know. I haven't figured out. Maybe I'll come back sometime and like have.
I do know I am having a lot of fun watching what makes my daughter laugh. She chased me around with an empty wrap, you know, like Christmas wrapping paper, you know, stuff like the tube in there. Yeah, she was chasing me around with that, and you know, whack 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 on my back with that, and she was big belly laugh. She was really digging that. So you know, I was like, oh, that's pretty good laughter from her. So I mean, that made me laugh too, because I knew it was her. I mean, she was hitting me with a tube. Like, oh boy, did she have like a bloodlust going for her on that one? That was
well, that's funny.
I mean, just the enthusiasm she wanted to hit me with, you know, just I'm gonna smack you good, daddy, ha. So I mean, you know, maybe I'm raising a future baseball player. Maybe I'm raising a future piñata champion
or a fencer, maybe.
She seemed to be doing a little bit more, like swing work. With fencing, you want to do a lot of wrist work.
Yeah, well, she's young.
Maybe she's a young Padawan, so I think she'll become a good Jedi.
The first Jedi, because I don't know of any other real Jedi.
All the other Jedi happened a long, long time ago.
Oh,
she would be
true.
the latest Jedi.
Yeah.
But so I'm enjoying watching what makes her laugh and seeing where the comedy comes from for her. And sometimes it is, like just a matter of surprise. She sees a photo of herself, like, oh, I was looking like this. My face, ha ha ha. And so, yeah, surprise is definitely a factor from what I've noticed in my studies of my daughter. Small sample size, small limited source, very anecdotal, but it still counts. Science.
Okay. Well, it counts as far as the podcast is concerned. Yeah. So yeah, we're all good.
Yes, comedy has to be genuine.
Yeah. Okay.
Conspiracy theory. Sony hacked itself and framed North Korea, because who's going to blame North Korea? It's like, oh no, they are innocent. North Korea is innocent until proven guilty, right? No, it's North Korea. Of course they did it, right?
Yeah.
That's the line of logic for most people. You don't need real evidence. It's like North Korea did it. I'll accept that.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a nice little caveat sort of thing. Have you ever heard of Hollywood accounting?
It's basically all the money is accounted for, and basically movies make nothing. Movies make no profit.
Movie has ever made any money. The Lord of the Rings has made $0 according to the proper, Hollywood accounting. Nothing has ever made any money because of how they connect all the funds together and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, because it's all expense to whoever, like little services and little this and that.
Well, that's the thing is you could have like a movie being made in, we'll say, Chicago, a nice little gangster movie. But according to the Hollywood, accounting, something on a lot down in South Africa burns down, that goes against the cost of the film in Chicago. It's very nebulous. So if North Korea had hacked and released to the public all this crazy accounting stuff that doesn't fly under any other logical system, in addition to the movie, but they had really tried to focus on, okay, yeah, here's a couple movies that we stole, and here's their fancy accounting and how badly it works, and I
think they're accounting. A lot of it has to be public anyways.
It's ultimately, released to the public. But let's get some of the fresh stuff, something that's happening for movies that are just coming out right now to see where the money lies and how much.
The company that has two sets of books, one they show to everyone else and one they use internally.
Exactly, and I want to see which one they're using for internally, because when a movie is successful, they say it's grossed over $100 million for the other purposes and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So if they had released that and focused more on that, releasing the accounting and showing the phoniness and the horrible accounting systems in there, would you see North Korea as that bad of a person in this case? They're just trying to bring light the horrible nature of the bad accounting and number system within the Hollywood,
Well,
Sony.
I mean, I don't see that. The thing that I object to is the threats of. Well, not. Let me see. The thing that I object to is when they start to deprive me of stuff that I want to see. I am not that concerned about them. Oh, they leaked some emails that someone sent to someone else.
Exactly. Very few people care about the emails, but if you get the accounting books and showing that.
No, I mean, the thing I care about is my entertainment.
If I was a rich man and they had hacked and released to the public, throughout all the internet, here's the accounting books, I would not mind hiring an accountant to look through those books for me and tell me exactly where all the craziness is coming from and how bad it is, and
so
whether
there's
or not
a good idea that you could use.
Well, maybe I got a couple ideas. Write down the notes for myself, but see exactly where they're doing things that are technically against the law, and then say, oh hey, by the way, media outlets, did you notice that what their accounting doing here, if their crazy Hollywood accounting is really incredibly illegal? In which case, it just becomes, instead of North Korea hacking for, revenge, there's them hacking for weird, misguided justice. So a lot of it comes down to the intent. If North Korea was we want to show you how bad they're going to try and claim our leader's insane, we'll show you how crazy stupid their math is in their accounting system.
Yeah, well, I have to say, to begin with, I like Sony somewhat, but I'm not a big fan of I don't care about them as a corporation, because they're a big corporation, they've done dumb stuff, and I don't really care for the company that much. So if somebody hurts Sony, I'm oh, okay, I don't care. And it's kind of good, stick it to the man. So so I don't have a lot of sympathy with them to begin with. Their
stock is not big in your portfolio, we'll say.
But at the same time, I do consume products that they invest in, or how to put that. I would not have been able to see many of my TV shows and movies that I like if it weren't for Sony.
And they have furnished, the electronics for watching a lot of the stuff over the years, I will say.
Yeah, I don't think I own any. Well,
they never gave me any of it, though, so it's not it's a high stock for me either.
Yeah, true.
But that said, I do want to keep them producing movies. Eventually, they'll produce something I really love.
Yeah, and I guess I don't want to live in a world where you have to. Well, I guess in our world you kind of do have to wall up your company and put firewalls and make sure that you're protected against cyber attacks.
As a nice, I guess, final caveat here, this also does show the big problem with cybersecurity in that it's one large bubble of security around, and then once you pierce that bubble, there's no defense within.
Yeah. Well, there actually are defenses within, but I remember another article I happened to glance at was that one of the leaks happened because an upper level, marketing guy, which I'm a marketing guy too, by training. One of the upper level marketing guys who got there sort of randomly to a high level position, all of his passwords were just password 1, something like that. And he had a whole, there was a text file just full of passwords that were all just basically this is password. So,
now, mind you, I am
one of
partially similar to Blame. I do have a file where I keep my various passwords for sites I don't go on very often. I haven't been on this site in a couple of years. What do I need for it again? Yes, I pull up this file.
Okay, so if there's any hackers out there listening right now, just so you know, if you get into Ryan's computer somehow,
if you really want to,
text file labeled passwords, and you're set, good to go. Actually, that's probably a common thing. I bet that's the first thing hackers
officially
look for.
What everyone should be doing is writing it down as a physical copy, keeping it in a little notebook they keep on their person. And they should be choosing better passwords and stuff like password. I always try to vary things up so that one password isn't repeated elsewhere.
So what's your password then?
Sometimes I go with various different themes. Or sometimes I like
hackers get your notebooks ready.
Well, there are some various things like if it's just password for all this guy's passwords, what IT should definitely be doing for Sony in this case is making sure that one person's password on various areas does not mimic or mirror other ones. Sorry, this is too close a password to another password you have entered. Please choose a different one.
Okay.
In which case, I think buffing up the IT and making sure that they can actually poke the higher power executives, get a better password, and forcing them into doing that.
I think part of the problem is that might have been his job, and he somehow ended up with that position. You know how the people get into positions that the Peter principle, they get promoted to a position they can't handle. So I think
there's actually an interesting reasoning for that.
Yeah, part of his job may have been to be that guy for other people, except that he didn't know what he was doing. So.
But yeah, there's a reason for the Peter principle. The reason why you keep getting promoted until you hit a position where you're no longer qualified is because every other position for you were at least minimally qualified for. So when they're looking at applicants, they go, he's been doing a good job, let's promote him.
Yeah.
And so they keep doing that until they just don't check to see whether or not you meet those qualifications. And all of a sudden, you're incompetent now. So what they should be doing is finding okay, he's minimally competent, we will not progress. This guy's maximally competent, he keeps going up.
I suppose. Part of it is just that these companies are just so big, and it's hard to have a personal grasp on what people are doing. So it's just that it's just people are reading a spreadsheet and it's like, this guy has a good performance on his spreadsheet. He's got a score of 13 dwarves out of 13. So I guess he gets a promotion.
Well, as it should be. You don't want to promote the guy who's got 6 dwarves out of 13.
Well, it depends what dwarves are measuring in this case.
He's got 6 dwarves out of 13, but he's got double bomber going on here. What's going on with that? Come on, man. There's not a Thor and Oakenshield on his list at all. I don't know if we want to promote this guy.
It's all bomber. What have you been doing?
You got a sextuple bomber? How the heck did that happen? Send some emails out. I want to see how this one happened.
Oh, no, it's just the bomber fills out 6 blocks of the... He's so fat.
He is a pretty big dwarf. It's just
takes up 6 blocks of the spreadsheet, that's why.
Oh, okay, that's him rolling in the barrel. It's actually a bomber and 5 squished goblins. Okay, that explains... Okay, that is how it goes.
This is the Josh and Ryan simulationist theory of business.
There may be a reason why we're not running a Fortune 500 company. We would base our criteria of candidate on dwarves. Might get us sued. I don't know. Maybe that's why we're not running it. But so just an interesting way is suddenly change how or the reason why North Korea hacked it.
Sure,
and then to see how much more or less of a villain that makes them to you. What else was released, sort of thing, if they're releasing this, or what if they're, because emails are boring, unless there's stuff like, yes, we should totally make sure we release this to ruin this actor's career, to drive down his price for future movies. We want to get him, but we don't want to pay more than this, so we'll release this badly edited film, and ha. That's an email I think a lot of people would like to see, and read, that's why the movie stunk, even bad editing.
Well, another thing about North Korea that's kind of interesting and odd is that they're very, or at least the Kims, the Kim family, Kim Jong-il and Kim Jong-un.
What about kimchi?
Kimchi. That's what they eat.
Cannibalism.
Okay.
Sorry, I've just read it. Okay, go on there.
It's like if you were named McDonald's, it would be cannibalism to eat at McDonald's.
As well as a bit of a travesty, but
If your name is Wendy and you eat at Wendy's, you're a cannibal.
Yeah, okay, I'll buy that.
And if your name is Subway And you eat at Subway?
Does that mean the Royals can't eat at Burger King?
Oh, yeah. I would say yes. I'd decree it, and Dairy Queen either.
Wait. Okay, so the female Royals can't eat at Dairy Queen, but they can eat at Burger King? Or is it like...
Technically same species, so...
okay, so gender plays no role in this, okay.
Although I guess if same species, then technically we can't eat at Wendy's, because Wendy is a human being, so...
Wendy's is made out of people.
Oh, boy.
And there goes one more potential sponsor.
Yeah. I was just about to call Wendy's and get them to sponsor the show, but I guess not.
But yes, you're saying the Kim family.
They are very interested in for some odd reason. They like film and they like basketball. They're very interested in American culture for the film, and also Japanese culture for like.
Well, they're not that far away from Japan. They probably get steal some decent cable.
And Kim Jong-il, he had kidnapped directors to make movies for him. Like he loved Hollywood and the cinema and stuff like that.
I think that's because they realized the power that it has.
Although I don't think they let their people see that.
Well, that would require electricity.
I think
they don't give their people a lot of electricity.
Because obviously they did make a film or at least a few. I think there might even be like a tiny industry.
Well, that might just be for like the same thing as with prints, though. That they're making it just for themselves, store away in a vault.
Could be, but I have who knows? I mean, that's the other thing about North Korea. Nobody knows what sort of goes on there because for some reason nobody can communicate. But
it's very hard to get reliable information in or out.
You could, in theory, I don't think it would be too hard for them to have one projector in a town and just say, have one.
Oh, take it on a tour sort of thing. You go to town and you must watch the movie. Everyone must attend. Bring your own popcorn.
I mean, if the regime gets it in their head that we want everybody in our country to see this movie.
They will make that happen, sort of thing. They'll take it on tour
because it'll raise our propaganda value.
Heck, they'll make it a slideshow if need be.
So I can see that happening.
Okay, fair enough. If they really want the propaganda to get out, they'll make sure it gets out.
But I don't think they let people they don't let the general population watch just whatever whatever Hollywood.
There are very few North Korean cable packages. Let's say that.
Yeah, but I also imagine that probably some of the higher ups, like the inner circle of Kim Jong-un or whatever,
the military groups,
if you're super high up, you might be able to get away with sneaking in. I hear that they're rich people and they jet skis and boats and things like that. But I don't know how many of them there are. There might only be a handful, maybe just Kim Jong-un and his inner circle. But those kind of guys might be able to sneak in movies or whatever. And
so how hard it would be for them to get a copy, like a subscription to Netflix and then just bounce it off like an American, IPA.
I don't know if North Korea. I don't think it has much for internet. I mean, probably the official.
Well, so their roaming charges are a little high. You're rich. Come on,
I guess
you can afford
you get a satellite account or something like that. I don't know. I don't even know how that works really. But I imagine maybe.
I think you're paying with South Korean dollars. We'll say that.
And maybe because Kim Jong-un. I mean, to talk more about is world stuff that I don't know anything about, but he had a hard time consolidating his power necessarily. They weren't sure if he was actually going to become the leader. I
do have a suspicion, completely unfounded, of course, because it's not like I'm talking with anyone there. I do have a suspicion he has very little power, and most of the power isn't amongst the generals that encircle him. He's just like a figurehead.
It's possible. I think that was probably true when he first took over, but I remember reading.
He did make sure to kill his uncle when things got pretty bad.
Yeah, I remember reading in the news fairly recently that there was a little bit of a purge, and he got rid of some people who maybe were thinking they were.
So did he get the purge underway, or did half the generals get rid of the other half that didn't want the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
Very interesting way to it's a very good way to think about things, is because you're very much looking from the outside on a black box perspective, and I think it pays very good dividends to always consider. Is this really what's happening? Especially with a place like North Korea that's known for propaganda. Is this really what's happening, or is this just what they want the outside world to see? So consider that next time. You're looking at this. Is this really how it goes? Because, I mean, some of the best conspiracy theories say, you know, like, oh, there's 17 levels of security clearance above the President of the United States for plausible deniability purposes. He does not have maximum clearance. And all that. I'm pretty certain that's not really true, but, you know, it's like, ooh, okay, I kind of like where this theory's going. Keep taking me along. How did you come to this? Let's just see how it all folds together. Yeah. Let's see the paper crane you make out of the logic you hear.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But yes, that's, I believe, our wonderful news and a couple of tangents associated with it. And a conspiracy theory for the week, so hooray.
Yeah, should we talk about our personal journey?
Yeah, what have you done this week, Josh?
Not a lot, but I did want to mention that I watched, I had not seen the Highlander before. That's
what, like the movie or the TV series?
Movie. Oh. Yeah, the original film by that name, The Highlander.
Yes.
Yeah.
How'd you like it? Has it for you? Has it held up well over time?
I didn't like it that much. I didn't think it was that good.
I found it a little long, honestly, and it probably could have been a little bit tighter done. But Sean Connery really rocked the scenes he was in. And I still don't know what the heck that ultimate power was at the end.
Yeah, and that's, I guess my complaint is I didn't really get enough of the mythology, because it's just, oh yeah, there's just powerful dudes who happen to be immortal, and they mentioned like 4 or 5 guys show up in the whole movie and they have fights, and that didn't feel cosmopolitan to me. It didn't feel like that, you know, global convergence. It didn't feel big enough, but maybe that was...
Well, it was like, well, you know, like when you're widowing things out, you know, like a you know, battle of the bands sort of thing, you know, like 2 bands go up and one, you know, like defeats the other. In which case, with the 5 people, there were like 500, but they just kept encountering each other as they got closer to the point, and they just kept chopping heads.
Yeah, so I guess there's a lot of stuff you just don't see.
I think it would have paid off in this case to have seen like a lot of stuff like that. You know, as the 2 people come across each other, they see it, and all of a sudden, wah! One head goes like flying off like a train that they're on, and the power is mine as they get closer. And that way, the people who show up have more weight behind them. And this is the guy. Oh, I saw him like 3 scenes ago, man. He's chopped off like 6 or 7 heads since then. This guy's the guy who knows how to chop a head. All right. Although here's the question: why didn't more people wear like metal neck braces? Like, if the only way to kill me is chopping off my head, I don't care how bad a fashion statement it is, I'm putting, we'll say, you know, just for starters, you know, some sort of like a metal, you know, chainmail mesh to help prevent chopping my head off.
Yeah, maybe they consider that dishonorable. Like, I don't get the...
You know what? Screw dishonor. I got my head. That's pretty honorable in my book.
Well, they seem to be, they seem to follow the rule about no killing on sacred ground.
Well, it's just, I mean, that benefits you as much as it does anyone else. Because, I mean, like, you don't want to get into a fight, you go to holy ground. You just chill it out, man. Spend 100 years as a monk or something, right? Just relax. That's a nice area. That's like where you don't have to always be. If there was no safe ground for you anywhere, that would be like that twists your mind into like paranoid thoughts. After a century of that, you're not a person anymore. You're just this paranoid feral creature who's afraid of any other human being.
Yeah,
horrible.
Well, I feel like I didn't get enough. Like, I feel like there may have been an answer to that. Like, if there was more.
Watch the TV series.
Okay, maybe the TV series.
The TV series actually had like a guy who's spent time as a monk, and then when like the others came by, there was no fighting because holy ground. But as soon as they left, he stalked them off holy ground and killed them. And because he was officially off of holy ground, it was completely legit. But it was pretty horrible, dickish move.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was like one episode going on there.
Okay.
But the one question they never did answer in that TV series, though, is like, why are the police never like on the lookout for who's decapitating all these bodies? Because it's like once a week somebody loses a head. Okay. What happens to the bodies? It's like there's never like another headless body found in the
Well, that happened in the movie that I watched. There was like several scenes where it was like, oh, now here's a headline. You know, here's the paper the next day. You know, headless bodies found, and then they think that it's a serial killer, and you see a lot of scenes with the
that
police.
Was something they purposefully glossed over and never bothered to mention in the TV series. Yeah. Yeah, apparently the cops are in on it. They just don't care. Oh, another headless body. Forget about it. It happens. People just lose their heads sometimes. It's a medical condition. Sometimes they just pop off like that, and lightning everywhere. It's weird. It's a medical phenomenon. There's a Latin name for it. I don't know. I'm just a police officer. Whatever.
Well, don't they like of the immortals? The bodies like disintegrate or like get
That is one good theory that would definitely work. You know, it's like as soon as the head's chopped off, the body ages to its appropriate value. Most of them turn to dust.
Yeah.
Although, honestly, like, still a lot of bones in most cases. And 2, there was all that moisture in there. Just because the body's dead doesn't mean it dries out. So, you know, whatever. It fails on multiple logical levels, no matter which way you come at it. So eventually I said, you know what? Don't care. Chops the head off. End of the episode. You know, like, we're just going to skip the scene of Duncan MacLeod, you know, of Clan MacLeod burying another headless body in the dirt.
Yeah.
Although that would make for a really, like, dark yet hilarious ending, you know, like an end credits sort of scene for every episode. It's just him digging another hole in the dirt. I'd have laughed every time that happened, but, you know, whatever.
Yeah. So I didn't really care. Like, there was at the end there was, you know, kind of our hero and versus our villain. I didn't really care which one won in the end, because I was like, yeah. And I guess I
prefer the TV series. I think if you're going to want to stake your claim anywhere, the TV series is probably the best way to go about it. Because 1, it's kind of 90s, and it's always nice to look at it. Oh, this is so 90s series. And 2, I have a friend who has named her kid with a middle. His surname is MacLeod, and his middle name is Duncan, so he's Duncan MacLeod.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's nice and clever. Most of the kids he's growing up with aren't going to get it, but, you know, all the parents are going to see, oh, so-and-so, Duncan MacLeod, and so he's going to wonder all his life, like, why does everyone see my full name and go, oh.
Well, at some point he might see the show.
Well, he will, sort of thing, but until then, it's just like every time like an adult reads his full name, they're like, ah.
Yeah, and then, but then you're like, yeah, I was named after a stupid movie from when my parents were young, so...
You know what? If your surname, you know, the family name is MacLeod, you might as well try and have some fun with it. You know, people are going to make the joke about it eventually, right? It's something
maybe?
that
I don't know.
The longer you go with the surname MacLeod, the better your odds of it coming to a joke.
Well, yeah, sure.
Someone from Clan MacLeod, eh? Just see your neck. So yeah, someone's going to make a joke eventually. So you know, you might as well at least have some fun with it. But yeah. Movie's not bad. I don't think much continuity works between any of the sequel movies, although my memory's rusty on that.
Yeah.
Watch the TV series.
Okay, all right, maybe, yeah. TV series will be better. So that's about it for me. I didn't do much else, yeah.
No.
I've been busy.
Well, that's okay. I mean, you know, like,
with
it's
other,
a full
like,
movie.
Real life.
Yeah. Stupid reality getting in the way of my fiction. Let's see. For me this week, watched a lot of Christmas movies. Because, you know, Christmas season coming up. Saw an old movie called I Know What You Did. I thought it might be like, oh, it turns out I Know What You Did Last Summer is like a modern remake of it. No, it's it's 2 young girls messing around on the phone who wind up contacting a man who has just killed his girlfriend. He's kind of insane. And when they say, I know what you did, he actually believes they somehow know what he did. So he tracks them down and going to try and kill them.
Okay, yeah.
So it's like, it wasn't that good of a movie. The morality lesson in that was pretty thickly laid on.
Yeah.
It's like, I like butter on my toast. I don't like it an inch thick. And it was because it's like, it's just like, it's too much, man. The ratio of horror to that, But this week, I remembered a game that I used to play back in the day. And I started playing it for my daughter, and it's called I don't know if you've heard it. It's Plants vs. Zombies. I check it out. Yeah, it turns out it came out 5.5 years ago, and turns out my daughter loves it. So I found a game that I can play that my daughter will just watch and sit and like be entertained by. So it's like, all right, because like she doesn't always like to watch the games I want to play, and sometimes I just want to sit down and play a game. Just, okay, you drink your milk and just relax, I'll play a game here. And so I found something, hooray! And it's fun and all that, and I got her saying, brains, because whenever the zombies come and they say brains, and so she's like, brains, they're coming, brains. And so, it's kind of fun to see what she's picking up from that. Flash forward to Halloween next year, might dress her up as a cute little zombie.
Yeah, you're not going with Plant? With Peach
She
either?
might dress up as like, if I can find like a little sunflower to dress her up as, she might go as the sunflower, and the wife and I might go as zombies. Go as a nice little theme family thing going. It might be fun. If she's okay with it, if she wants to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my one big thing this last week. Other than that is I stopped coding for Dwarf Fortress. I've taken a break from it because all the stuff I've got going on here, there, and everywhere, and it's just like, I can't keep up everything and still get sleep. And I kind of like sleep. It's addictive. What can I say? It's a habit for me. So, and I'm like, I have these great ideas. I want to do this. I want to do that. It's like I don't have the time to do it all. So I had to make a choice. And in the end, keeping my daughter entertained, because apparently looking at coding is not entertaining for a 2-year-old. I don't know why. A bunch of words on a notepad aren't amusing for her, but she prefers me to fight zombies with plants instead. So, oh well.
Mm-hmm.
But that's been my week, sort of thing. Is just watching a lot of movies, sort of stuff, in the background as we do other things. So. But that segs into our topic for the day. Is,
sure.
The one thing I noticed for all these movies was, especially the Christmas ones, is that they have a moral lesson to teach you about it. And I suppose every lesson, it comes out from every story. There's always something you can learn.
Yeah, that's what I always say about stories. That's why we tell stories, is to convey.
Well, there's entertainment purposes too, of course.
Yeah, but if you just wanted to be entertained, why you could just watch a ball bouncing off a wall or something,
As long as that's entertaining, sure.
Yeah, I mean the thing about stories is it does have people take actions and there's consequences, whereas like if you just wanted pure entertainment, yeah, you could just bounce something or just have like colors moving around in a screen. The reason we have stories is because it makes sense. Well,
yes, but when I was watching that dull black and white movie yesterday, I Know What You Did, I got a little bored, so I was looking up some other stuff and said, oh, hey, Tales from the Crypt. Because it was like songs that Danny Elfman had done, and it turns out that song at the beginning of... By the way, for those of you who don't know, Tales from the Crypt was originally a comic book, or a series of comic books. There's like Tales from the Vault, Tales from the Crypt, suspense stories, and Two-Fisted Tales, because I love the name of that one. Mm-hmm. And they were all very gory, gruesome sort of tales that once the comic code got in, there's no way they're getting produced. And so Max Gaines, the guy who did the whole thing, was left with just Mad Magazine. And so with him redoubling his efforts into the one remaining magazine, he made Mad Magazine the big, comic parody satire site it was known for so many decades. But he lost those 5 other ones. And then back in the end of the 80s, 89 to 96, they had a TV series. And oh my goodness, the stars. There's all sorts of stars on there. Like they had guest directors. They had Michael J. Fox doing an episode directing. They had Arnold Schwarzenegger direct an episode. They had more names than you would imagine. And because it was on HBO, they were allowed to, get away with stuff you can't see on NBC. And so there was gore, there was frontal nudity, there was violence, there was swearing, all the good stuff you love from HBO. And for those of you who wonder, how did HBO get so big? It wasn't the Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is their now big thing. It wasn't, The Walking Dead. It's stuff like Tales from the Crypt, telling wonderfully deep stories that just happened to be gory, and very dark. Okay. And so I'm looking at that, and I'm like, oh, Tales from the Crypt, I remember that. And apparently I need to rewatch it, because the stuff I saw was not from HBO. It was like late night on some other channel. And so It was apparently heavily edited, according to the Wikipedia. So I only got half of the good stuff. I could have seen even more good stuff. I guess I got to get, does the library have a copy? I'm going to have to give this a check-see here now. And I was thinking, I remember Tales from the Crypt. Every story they had there had a moral. You do something bad happens to you.
Mm-hmm. Is it like G.I. Joe? The moral of the story is...
No, it was very stuff that you had to watch and apply. Yeah. There's nothing at the end, the more you know, lesson learned sort of thing at the end.
Okay.
But the thing is I had read a few of the comics back when I was growing up. My brother had got a few reprints. My cousin had a few. And I remember, these are some... I probably read them before I was of proper age, because they still stick in my head. I remember spending nights thinking, why did they do that? Why would he kill the person like that? What's going on? Mm-hmm. But there was always a moral, a person, I want to build a road through here, because America, apparently, you can build your own road and charge a toll, right? That's a thing that happens down there. Weird for us here in Canada. The government builds roads, don't they? But yeah, they got toll roads down in the U.S., and he wants to build a toll road. Unfortunately, there's a graveyard in the way, so he secretly hires 2 guys to steal all the tombstones. And then when they're building the road through there, there's no graveyard marked here. That must have been something wrong. If there's a graveyard here, there'd be tombstones. And so he builds a road over. And then he's inspecting it on the final night, and the people that were buried come up to exact their revenge for defiling their burial place. And the people, his workers and all that, find him. The next day, he'd been rolled by one of the big rolling thing into the asphalt as he's like, ah! And like one whole creepy piece. And it's like, yeah, you profane the resting place of the undead, you will have comeuppance. In this case, by their zombies. That's, the lesson learned.
Lesson learned, yeah. Sure.
Or I remember one, it was a really nice one, it's like, guy finds a magnificently quilt, looks absolutely beautiful, like the colors and the designs. This is so, like, there's not an artistic style that mimics this and all that. And it's 3 old ladies that are knitting it, 3 sisters and all that. And apparently they've been knitting this stuff for decades. And he shows some of the stuff to the boss. Boss says, we gotta sell this stuff. We gotta get this. Get me all the patterns you can get. You can get me twice as much as that. We're gonna print these. We're gonna make reproductions. We'll make a fortune. These things are beautiful. And so the guy's trying to, get a copy, like this one quilt here, and all of them are different, all of them unique quilts. And he tries to pressure the 3 old sisters into making more quilts, and they say they can't. They can't. And so finally, he finds out why they can't. They can only do it as with an inspiration when somebody dies. They've seen a lot of horrific deaths in their years, and we're like, oh, this is the time so-and-so got hit by a car. And then they start knitting, and the colors they see and all that evoke what they saw during the accident. Mm-hmm. So he decides, well, if that's what it takes to get them inspired, maybe I can cause some inspiration to happen. So he sets up for, cut a brake wire here so that a traffic accident will happen outside of their, their house. So they'll see it and they'll start knitting new stuff because I got to appease my boss. Mm-hmm. And they learn about that sort of thing. And in the end, they take one final quilt to the boss and they unveil it, and it's him. They cut him apart and stitched him into an entire quilt, and his body is all splayed out. And it's like, I remember this being very graphically presented. It's like, oh my God, a twist sort of thing. And that's the thing. You force, this sort of thing to happen. You cause an accident to benefit yourself. You will have comeuppance. You will turn into your own quilted product.
Yeah.
You will become a victim of your own process.
Now, is it morality, or is it more like
kind of a karma?
Because I mean, if it's morality, then it's
Well, it's teaching you not to do these bad things, and why should you not do them? Because you will become victim of your own methodology.
But why are you assuming that the listener is putting themselves in the shoes of that particular character? Like, couldn't you see it as just like a tale of, oh, this is what happens to bad people?
The tale is usually told from the perspective of one person, sort of thing. Yeah, it helps heighten suspense if you're like, oh, and then he leaves the room, and then this happens. So you're seeing it all from one room. You're seeing it from the perspective and the story of one particular person throughout these small stories, and from that you wind up, getting it from that person's perspective. So that's the lesson they should have learned before they died.
Well, I mean, yeah, but
they all died. Tales from the Crypt.
But why do you immediately? I guess people naturally do identify with people they see on screen, but isn't it also just the case that here's a bad person, and this is like, it's not like you should never do this. It's like, this is, if someone ever victimizes you, like, oh, don't feel so bad because karma will get them in the end. Like, if you're looking at it a bit from outside, saying, like, this is what happens to other people.
Well, I think it helps teach you to learn that it's like, no, you don't have to take vengeance upon it. They will become victims of their own stuff. Like, you see somebody just rocketing down the highway, like 30, 50, 90 kilometers, above everything else, and God, there's not a cop in sight. How do they get away with that? Don't worry. Calm down. Relax.
Calm down, relax. They're going to die.
Well, one, they might die from their reckless driving, and that's the downside to it. They'll probably take someone else with them in this case. But even if they don't kill themselves, even they just get into an accident, it's going to drive their insurance rate up. They might be driving faster, but I bet you they're going to wind up paying more for it in the end because of it.
Yeah.
And I would never have thought that lesson if it wasn't for something like Tales of the Crypt saying, like, okay, now here's the situation. What's the logical extension for living this sort of lifestyle? And that's kind of how I learned some lessons, how I learned to think. Like, don't be upset about the guy speeding and getting away with it. They're not going to get away with it forever. Maybe the police gets them. Maybe physics gets them. Maybe just the insurance company gets them. But any which way, they will be got.
Yeah.
Given enough time and enough of this action, they will catch themselves with it.
I want to bring up like a thought I've had at various points about morality, and that is, or the moral of the story, and that is that I don't necessarily believe in morality like as a real physical, like it's not a real thing. It's
you can't grind the universe down into small. Oh, hey, there we go. There's the
morality.
The moralon. Oh, I guess you can't call it the moron. The moralon.
The moron. I like the moron. But I often think of, Bugs Bunny is my favorite example, because morality is more about, or what I like to see is, I like smart versus stupid rather than good versus evil. I like.
Mind you, Bugs Bunny in his some of his early stuff was the stupid one.
That's true. Yeah. And
he did get his comeuppance for it and trying to race the tortoise again and again, and because he was the stupid. They portrayed all rabbits as pretty darn stupid in that one. Mm-hmm. Like he tried to be aerodynamic and have like a racing shell like the turtle, and all the other rabbits were trying to impede him because they thought he was a turtle.
But it's like when a show tells you, okay, this is the lesson that you should learn. It's not about
don't be stupid.
Then you'll be a good person, and then people will like you. That's part of it, because it is generally beneficial to have people like you, because then they might do something for you,
maybe,
or not do something bad to you. But I see the moral of the story is more like, this is what the smart thing to do, and this is the thing that will get you ahead, and this is the thing that will possibly set you back. And it's like, don't do stupid stuff.
I do believe the Duke once perhaps said it best. Life's tough, but it's tougher when you're stupid. And I think there's some powerful words in that one. It's like, it's never going to be easy, life, but the dumber you are, the worse it's going to be for you.
Yeah, but I guess, you can't always say dumb, because sometimes there is virtue in simplicity, like being Forrest Gump or something, or even like...
That's the thing, I like the movie Forrest Gump, but I never saw it as being realistic.
I guess not. I guess he just sort of lucks into a lot of this stuff.
He gumps his way into it. Yeah. That was like a verb for a while there. You're gumping your way through life.
There are a few moments, though, when his simplicity and his sincerity actually sort of win him favor with people. They're like, yeah, Forrest, you're all right. Like, the sergeant or whatever says, you're an okay guy. I like you. Because he's...
in the end, he leads a better life because of his simplicity, his forgiveness and inability to really perceive what was going on with his lady love. Sort of thing means, he didn't need to try and find forgiveness in his heart. He never even occurred that she had done anything that needed forgiving. Mm. And the young kid there is like, yeah, of course it's my son. She said it was my son, so it's my son. Despite the fact that it was very heavily implied, no, that is not his biological child. Mm. And so in which case he winds up leading a better, healthier life because he's not plagued by this, he's not even my boy, sort of thoughts that might, be there in a more intelligent person. So, okay, I will grant that.
My takeaway from the movie, I thought it actually was his son, because she was with another guy at the time when she got pregnant, but
she claims it's his son because he's dumb enough to buy it.
Well,
in which case, because he's dumb enough to buy it, he's living a happier life with the concept that he is a father.
Yeah.
Whether or not, and truly he is a father to it, even if he's not the biological father.
He ends up raising the kid, right?
In which case, yes, he is spiritually very much the father, even if there's no genetic link between them.
Right.
So, I think there's something profound to be learned in that lesson, too.
Okay, yeah, so we got some morals. Moral of the story.
You don't need to be related to the person if you for them to be your kid.
Family is who is around you, right?
Exactly. I think that's a very powerful lesson to learn. I don't think that was the intended lesson, though.
Well, it's one of the lessons. That's another point I would like to bring to the table of morals in the story is stories don't just have one lesson. There's packed full of sort of ideas and concepts, and you can look at a story and you can say, well, I could interpret it this way and get this lesson out of it, or maybe there's the opposite.
Well, let's just use a nice definitive example in this case. Let's work with the three little pigs who build their houses, one out of straw, one out of sticks, and the third out of brick. No, in most cases the tail, like the first two pigs are laughing at their brother for taking that extra time to build something so much. He gets a house, in the end, just like the first two had, but it took him so much longer to build the house. And in the end, when the wolf huffs and puffs, he can't blow down the wonderfully made brick house because it's too sturdy, as opposed to the quick ramshackle huts of the other brothers.
If we can just pause there for a second. How would the pigs have even known that the wolf had super breath power?
Well, I don't think it really needs to be a wolf in this case, because eventually you're going to get a windstorm coming by your area.
If you want to build against a windstorm. It seems
you want to build against the elements sort of thing.
Yeah, people, it's funny because people build cities to a certain scale of, earthquake proofness.
Preparedness. It's never proof, but prepared.
Right. I believe, in Vancouver, they have earthquake ratings for buildings and whatever, and they do not build they build buildings to withstand something like 7, or it might even just be 6 on the Richter scale or the whatever scale we currently use. They don't necessarily build higher than that because they say, well, higher than that won't happen for 100 years.
Despite the fact that a lot of people say, oh, that big one's right around the corner.
Yeah,
that could be 40 years from now.
But sort of almost from an accounting point of view, it's just you take the average over 100 years of building, and you say, okay, our building's going to last 100 years. There may be an earthquake in that time, but
the cost per point of Richter scale of it is versus the length of the building indicates this is where the two areas mark. We don't need to build higher than a Richter 6 for the earthquake because the chances are the building's not going to be around long enough for it to be any worse.
And it occurs to me that I think the pigs doing a rational calculation of what would happen in the future, probably the optimal choice would probably be the sticks house. Because it's slightly stronger than hay, so and slightly above average windy day won't blow it over.
No,
but it
is much more vulnerable to stuff like fires.
I guess there could be a fire or something like that. But don't
smoke in that house. I'll say that.
Your stick house is, as long as there's not a wolf outside it, that's going to eat you as soon as it falls down. But you can just rebuild a stick house fairly.
Yeah, but then one day you're stuck out in the rain sort of thing.
I guess
your house collapsed because of
wind.
wind.
Bad. Yeah.
I think the best answer is to build the house of sticks as a temporary residence, and then as you're building the brick house or thing, you live in the house of sticks, and then once you got the brick house done, whatever stick house, rent it out to someone else. I suppose make some rent money that way.
Yeah, and that person can start working on their brick house.
I believe anyone who's played Minecraft for any length of time will know about the temporary structures. You build it just for now, just to set things up, and then build up the better thing.
Yeah. I like that. Build a brick house and then build your Parthenon.
Yeah, you build up as you go, sort of thing. But the lesson is supposed to be, for the thing is to build when you're doing something, when you're making something, make it of quality. Don't just make it something quick and slapshot. You want to make something of quality because it will bear out in the end. That's, I guess, the big lesson on there.
Okay.
But you can see other lessons in there, like one, support your family even when they're kind of stupid. So it's like the first two pigs, the stick pig and the straw pig. They're kind of stupid for not trying to upgrade their houses, just leaving it as they
are.
Or
as I said, they made a different economic calculation.
Yeah, even then, when I tell the story to my daughter, for instance, with the house of straw, he's weaving it in, so he's got mats or things. So it's not just I tied a bunch of stuff together, up at the top and done my house. This is something that you might see in the tropics.
Okay.
Where it's still waterproof.
He did put some effort into it.
Some effort, but not a lot.
It's also relatively aesthetically pleasing in some ways.
When I tell the house of sticks, it's much more of a kind of a cabin style. That's how I see a house of sticks, is you're likely going to want to make a cabin.
So a house of logs.
Yeah.
Or those thin, alder logs or
yeah, in which case he's kind of doing a little weaving
logs.
too, and he's doing like a beaver dam sort of style sometimes when I tell it. Whereas the pig who makes the third house out of bricks, he takes the straw from the around from the first pig, and he mixes it with mud because they're all living next to a river when I tell it.
Okay.
And then he bakes them into bricks using sticks from the woods where the pig got the house of sticks.
Oh yeah, the sticks burns them.
He burns them to create kiln-fired bricks as he's making it. And the first two pigs, well, they let him live in their place. He's like doing the couch hopping sort of thing as he's making it, and they kind of rib him for it. But they're all brothers. It's all good. Nothing too bad.
Mm-hmm.
So in the end, of course he helps them out when their houses get blown down because they helped him have a place whilst he was slowly building his brick house. I think that changes the story a little bit, but it does help reinforce the story of you want to be around family, protect them, and even if it's okay to rib and make jokes at each other's expense a little bit, but you're still family. You still want to be there to protect and help out when need be.
That makes sense.
I do enforce that extra lesson in the story.
Also, speaking of earthquakes, I think a brick house, depending on the construction of the brick house, but assuming maybe the pig doesn't have the expertise for building an earthquake-proof brick houses actually are relatively vulnerable to earthquakes, whereas a stick house or a straw house stand up pretty good in an earthquake. I mean, they should get shook around, depending. But
in that case, the house of straw is the best one because it has the most sway in its given material.
Yeah.
The house of sticks, maybe if he's like planting the sticks and keeping them green, like a living wood house sort of thing, which would be like rock on hippie pig sort of thing, like living house.
But that's kind of similar to straw, so maybe not the.
It does take a lot more work in that case, sort of thing. So he's a little bit better off.
Yeah. So maybe the lesson that we should teach is some kind of diversity, like diversify your assets. Like, have a brick house, for when the wolf comes, but have a straw house in case an earthquake.
Have a straw summer house, man. Just live there and relax because, that house of brick is going to heat up like nobody's business come the summer.
It also might get kind of dismal and urban, that whole gray urban landscape. All the bricks are red.
Well, the way I tell it is they've got a nice little spot out near the river. There's like a forest nearby. So it's very pastoral, very rural in this case. But you could also make an argument about the big bad wolf comes along, so you should be afraid of strangers. That's the lesson to learn from this story. Mm-hmm. Strangers mean nothing but trouble, and they will try and ruin your life. So you could very much infer that one. So depending on how you want to look at it, there's a lot of unintended morals from the story, and that's something that I think if you're trying to plan a story, you might want to pause, step back from it, and say, now, is there any other way we can interpret this where things get done the wrong way?
Well, that's true. The other thing about stories too, now that you mentioned that the fear of strangers, that is also
that's a big thing for the old ones. Yeah.
That's something that also people bring into stories, because remember, when you tell a story, you're telling it to an audience who already has a little bit of life experience, unless it's Zoe, obviously.
Yeah, my wee one, she's only 2. That's why I do try and enforce, yes, they ribbed him a little bit, but they let him, couch surf, for a while as he was building his house of brick. And then at the end of the story,
the
after
couch of bricks, and the couch of which couch is the most comfortable?
The couch of straw, dude. Oh, that is just so sweet.
Jeez, this brick couch, I just can't.
Yeah, that's how it kind of goes. But in the end, once the wolf is dispatched, the 2 other pigs learn their lesson. They start building, houses of brick themselves as they live in the 3rd pig's house, and he gets the chance to rib them for it. But he still lets them, crash in the guest room because, he planned for this sort of stuff in advance.
Hopefully that happens in the story. There are some stories where he was like, no, screw you, brothers. I don't...
the first pig got gobbled up. Oh, the second pig got gobbled up. And then it was just the 3rd pig all alone. It's like, dude, you guys are brothers. Come on. Let's try and show some solidarity here. I got 2 bros myself. I like to think of myself as the brick pig. I'll leave it to my brothers to decide which one's the straw and which one's the stick.
I wonder if they're... hey, guys.
If you're listening, figure it out for yourself. I'll see which one you guys think you are.
What was I going to say? Oh, but people, audiences bring in their own backgrounds into the story. So for a thing like, a stranger danger or something like that, that's actually kind of something that people already bring into a story. I'm already afraid of wolves. I don't need a story to tell me,
super powerful wolves, man, are going to come.
Wolf is scary. Although
talking super powerful wolves will come, and they will try and eat you.
Super breath. Yeah.
I think talking counts as an ability, because it's not just like a parrot, mimicking things. This is a wolf with a plan.
Talking wolf.
Maybe they're all a bunch of talking animals. I'm not sure how that qualifies under the old story system for telling and all that stuff, but so whatever.
And I just, you wonder, too, how much of what the audience actually brings into the story is going to affect what moral they take out. Because yes, you can say, oh, the moral of the story is always prepare and build solid for the future, and take your time and build good things. But maybe your listeners already kind of know that. So maybe, I mean, if it's children, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I should think again about how, because a kid probably already has been told at some point, oh, be careful and do it right, or else you have to do it again, or it gets blown over, or whatever.
If you're going to do something, make sure it's quality product.
Yeah. And then the story is just telling them that yet again, like, oh yeah, thanks again for the same lecture over and over again. But I guess the story, in one sense, it makes it interesting. It makes it like, at least it's not just the same old lecture.
Well, you get to go through the repetition,
yeah.
Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin.
Yeah, and
then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in.
You get fun bits along with it, so that's good. And you learn, it's playing and learning and memorizing and getting that little endorphin spike when you repeat a thing and you get the answer right or something like that.
Yes. I think that's a nice bit for every kid when they and the little pig and go, not by the hair of our chinny chin chin. This little kid screams out and it's like, oh yeah, you did it right, and they're all so happy. That means they're involved in the story, and that gets them more, into accepting the morals, I believe.
Yeah. But like the point is, just trying to finish off was just that. Sort of people already know the right answer, they already know the
or the right in air quotes.
This is why you can ask a kid, if you read a kid a story, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years old, or maybe 4 or 5 years old, you can ask them, okay, what's the moral of the story, and they can think to you, and they can process what they just heard in the story, and they give you an answer. Sometimes it's kind of funny. They'll give you a weird, like, don't be a pig or something, or but
do not trust pigs with building quality material. 2 out of 3 are insufficient architects.
Yeah, as kids get older, you can ask them that question, like, okay, what do you think the moral of the story is? And they'll give you something that might be influenced by their own, what they already believe, or what they think their parents want them to say, or whatever. They'll give you that answer. We're
both grown adults here. So what's the moral of the story for Red Riding Hood?
The Red... let me
see. The story of Red Riding
Hood. Yeah. Be nice to your grandma. Definitely visit your grandma.
Visit relatives regularly.
Have a good woodsman friend. I don't know.
You can trust the woodsman who randomly encounter you with him.
Trust. Now, well, you just gave it away, but...
but that's a dual-edged sword. I baited you. On the one hand, it's like, trust the woodsman. He will help get you out of danger, sort of thing, because, he's a rugged man of the wilderness, and he knows the hard lessons, and he will help you out. On the other hand, Red Riding Hood trusted the wolf, who then betrayed her trust and snuck to Grandma's house through a shortcut because he waylaid her with like a longer route through the woods. He snuck in there and gobbled up Grandma in one whole bite, sort of thing. And so he's a betrayal of trust, in which case don't necessarily trust strangers might be a moral to learn.
Yeah, that's
Don't
true.
talk with strangers, otherwise, they'll betray your trust, and they'll do bad things like eat your grandmother. And not
maybe
in like
also
a weird way.
like follow your instincts, because she was like, there's something not right about Grandma. Her eyes are a little bit too big. Her teeth are just not quite how I remember them being. They're more wolf-like.
Oh, sorry, those are the wrong size of dentures. That's the meat-eater dentures. Let's get the regular, granddaughter talking dentures.
It's like that whole, uncanny valley. Trust your gut when you think there's something not quite right about Grandma.
Being observant, I think, is a good lesson to
be observant.
And, of course, as always with the stuff, don't trust wolves, especially talking wolves.
Although,
Seems to be a thing.
That's a hard thing to say, because sort of decorum and etiquette sometimes, if Grandma's in the shadows and if she's got a shawl over her or something like that,
It's so dark in here, Grandma, I can barely see you.
Yeah, you want to be respectful of Grandma's privacy and of her, for whatever reason she doesn't want to be out in the open. You don't want to just yank off the cover, hey, Grandma, I think you're not really Grandma. And then if it really
Let's see who Grandma really is.
Then it would be,
oh, no, it's Old Man Jenkins, the owner of the abandoned amusement park.
Well, it would be embarrassing if it really was Grandma. Like, oh, okay, Grandma. Yeah, you're old.
Hey, your nose is getting bigger, Grandma. I'm sorry, I thought you were a wolf.
Although maybe that's another thing, because if Grandma has a weird lump, maybe that's cancer and you should get it looked at.
This was long before you could really do much about cancer, though.
I guess Grandma's just
a little, basket full of treats is not going to help out. So, okay.
Well, it'll make her easier passing, I suppose.
Okay, so for the ending of Little Red Riding Hood, in your mind, you have at least one version of the story, one preferred version at least. I think everyone does when they hear multiple versions. One story is, this is how it really goes.
Okay.
How does it end for you?
I think the wolf eats Red Riding Hood, but she still, swallows her whole.
Yeah, because he's a greedy pig.
Yeah.
Of a wolf.
But then a random woodsman from...
So wait, could that be an interesting moral of the story? Chew your food thoroughly?
Yeah. I think the wolf would have died either way.
Well, he did have, 2 whole people in him. I mean, that's a pretty nasty stomach.
Yeah, he ate Grandma, too, didn't he?
Yeah. Now, Red Riding Hood might not have been big, and Grandma might not have been big either, but that's still 2 people in you. Oof.
Yeah, 2 whole people. Maybe he's a dire wolf. I don't know.
I don't know. He's some sort of weird talking wolf.
He's not a werewolf, though, right? That's not part of the... I mean, I think in some versions,
you could totally do it as a werewolf, yeah.
Yeah, he's not a...
In which case, it's the woodsman's twin evil brother. This is for the family.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, but yes. How does it end for you?
The end of the story, the woodsman just bursts in and just chops and kills the wolf and chops open his stomach, and Grandma and Little Red Riding Hood are fine.
Oh, because that's interesting. Because my story has a longer ending. The woodsman's axe is so sharp he cuts open the belly with a single slice, and Grandma and Red Riding Hood pop out again. But the wolf is still alive. So precise was the cut, and so they decide to
sew him back up again.
But not before filling his belly full of rocks, so he still thinks he's got 2 people in there.
Oh, okay.
So they sew him up again, because Grandma's got some wicked good sewing skills, And it's so good that he doesn't even realize he's being sliced up, man. So good is the cut, so good is the sewing. And so they all go hide, and when the wolf wakes up, he's so full from these 2 people, he goes out to the river to get himself a drink, and that's when they push him in, and because his belly's full of rocks, he can't get out of the stream, and he drowns.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah.
So honestly, that's an interesting. Does that different ending, that extra bit ending, does that change the lessons for you? Where they enact revenge upon him, they play one final trick where they make him think he's still full of people, but it's really stones, and then they drown him in the bottom of the nearby creek.
Probably. I mean, I guess I'd have to think about it. I think I have heard that version, though. I mean. Is that I don't know if it's a grim version or what.
That's the thing. It's my version. It's the version when I'm telling a story. That's how it goes. If someone asks me Red Riding Hood's story, that's how it pictures out in my mind.
Yeah.
So in the case of some of the older stories where things change about and people tell different styles for it, it does, I think, change it. So I think you have to be careful in the format you go. A book will always be a book. How it's gone is always that way, but if you're doing it like an oral sort of story, just a small tale and all that, it is very much more susceptible to change, and that could do some very interesting permutations of the moral.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, my problem with that story is the woodsman has a freaking axe. He could just kill the wolf.
But they want revenge on the gobbling up whole. I mean, admittedly, probably a pretty traumatic experience. Wolf just swallows you whole. I mean, it's like there's no psychologist that far back in time, but oh man, would they have been able to use one then? I
mean, and also I don't have that bad. I mean, obviously wolves are dangerous; they're wild animals. But
they're not that bad, dude.
They're not evil. And if a wolf eats someone, it's just doing wolf things. I mean, sure, yeah. In the interest of public safety, sometimes the conservation officer has to come and put the wolf down with a bullet.
So does that mean if we were to make a new version of a fairy tale, instead of a wolf, because wolves here in Canada, especially on the island, are so very rare to be non-existent, we would have to switch the villain to be a cougar? Like one of the cougars that gets so hungry and is hurt that it has to interact with people and try and prey on other, on humans in order to meet its nutritional requirements.
Well, I guess
Could we tell a story with a bad guy who's like a cougar with a limp?
I'm marginally more sympathetic to wolves than cougars. I'm not even sure why. They're both animals. They're both, wild animals. I don't have a particular desire to kill either of them. I don't want to see them dead. But also, in the interest of public safety, the conservation officer has to come by with his rifle.
If it's interacting with people, eating the garbage from the food, like a bear sort of thing like that, it's got to go down.
Yeah. So to me, actually, that doesn't make a difference. Like, I don't think it makes a difference to a substantial difference.
So if you were going to make a new, modern day, fairy tale sort of thing, all new, Josh's first, best, story for fairy tales, you'd still keep it as a wolf for the bad guy sort of thing, just to keep the continuity of wolves equal bad guy?
Well, let me see. If I were to retell the tale,
because I think the Jungle Book, Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book, where they have Shere Khan as the tiger. That has to, is a danger to people because it's kind of semi-lame, can't hunt the regular animals, and so it's forced to hunt humans as being the villain sort of thing. I think that's an interesting continuity to keep. Explaining why they're around the humans, why they're hunting people.
I might try and think of some, some modern thing.
Could you have, a gang of deer? Like those urbanized deer? Could you have them, be, represented as, a gang of deer?
Because when you talk about, I guess this is getting into some far-flung metaphorical, reaching for connections. But when you talk about somebody being swallowed whole, I think of something like an organization or a habit of some kind, or it's gambling. Grandma gets sucked into a casino. She gets swallowed whole, and she's stuck in the casino.
So the wolf is the casino.
Yeah, Little Red Riding Hood goes to, visit Grandma at the casino because she won't leave, or the bingo hall or whatever, and then Little Red Riding Hood is like, oh, this is awesome, this is so fun. So
I can work bingo. 3 pages of bingos all at once.
Grandma's like, yeah, here, grab this card, and you mark this, watch this one, and so
we'll each switch off. We'll cover the extra card while the other one uses the bathroom every 3 hours. Perfect.
And then the woodsman is, I don't know who the woodsman is, somebody who's anti-casino or anti-gambling, and then it's like, crash, breaks the casino.
Would he be the person that is legally required after 8 hours to tell you should probably stop, go somewhere else, have a bite to eat?
Maybe. he could be just a government mandated the know your limit, play within it thing.
Interesting. I'm legally required to ask you to stop playing after 8 hours? No? Okay, keep going.
I guess this could even go back to the days when you could literally lose everything and they would literally keep you in the casino because you don't have a way to pay out. You
bet more than you have.
You might become their slave or forced to stay, something like that. So yeah, this could be back in the bad old days when a casino could be like, oh, I guess you work for us now.
Well, it's a good thing for you. We are actually run by organized crime because we've got a few people we need you to whack.
Yeah.
So that's just how it goes.
And in that case, yeah, the woodsman could be some,
We could be like the FBI,
Yeah.
The anti-corruption squad.
Yeah.
Or they'd be like the Vice squad. I'm a little rusty on my American FBI departments, but you could be definitely he could be a Fed.
Yep.
Dig it. And so in which case the sharp axe is like the sharp axe of the law.
The axe of the law. You'd be axe cop.
All right, I'm liking where this version of the story's going.
Yeah.
It's not bad. So maybe we should talk about more of the unintended, lessons to be learned in other formats. Sure. Because any story you tell is likely going to have a moral. In which case, let's work with D&D, because it's been around for 30 years, and there happens to be some very bad unintended lessons. So what would happen if we were to have an entire race of people that just happen to share a skin tone with a certain ethnic group of people here in reality? And we were to portray them as all horribly evil and perfectly all right to kill them whenever you wanted to. Like the Drow, who just happen to have dark ebony skin.
Yeah, so you're saying D&D endorses racism?
No, it's very much an unintended lesson sort of thing that people have connected up, whereas they just said, okay, we need a race of villains sort of thing, because that's how it kind of goes. We need villains to, come at you in groups of 5 to 10, and they need to have so many hit dice sort of thing to make this a decent adventure. Mm-hmm. And the one goes, hey, you remember those dark elves mentioned in the Norse Poetic Edda? What if we had dark elves in here? And oh yeah, that's right, yeah, that'll be completely a Norse thing. That way we're connecting up to real world mythologies, and it'll make it seem more epic and all that. And then someone else comes along and goes, well, why did you make an entire race of black people it's okay to kill? And so in that case, their different perspective very much changed any sort of potential lesson coming out of the story. Because while the people are saying, oh yes, we want it to be like a Scandinavian sort of mythology sort of connection on here, other people saw racism. Ooh, nasty.
Well, Scandinavian isn't a moral.
No, the Scandinavian perspective sort of thing is they never even intended for it to have a moral. In this case, the moral of it would be like, you got to stay true to your principles against slavery, because it's like the Drow are very notorious slavers sort of thing. So it's like, oh yes, the moral is slavery is bad. I think you got to fight for freedom, true freedom, and other people look at it and go, why are you saying it's okay to kill black people? Like every bad guy here's got ebony skin. It's looking pretty bad from my perspective.
Well, I think you talk about the Scandinavian origins. Oh, it wasn't raised. Well, in a way it was, because they did. Back in the medieval times, they were not.
Well, pre-medieval too. When they're doing this stuff,
way back when.
The deep dark pagan era of Scandinavia.
They sort of saw that idea of black skin as basically evil. Like
I don't think they actually saw it that much. It was supposed to be the dwarves, according to how the thing goes. Yeah. In which case, it's just they
lived underground. They were black. They were dark.
They're just
sooty,
and they that's just how they were. The dwarves really weren't that evil. I have very good sympathy for Snorri Sturluson and the dwarves that forged the wonderful weapons of the gods, and who wound up getting nothing for their reward, because the gods decided, I don't want to pay any price. We shall have them be unable to fulfill their contract. Loki, go muck things up so they can't fulfill their end of the bargain, but we get all the good stuff. And he did.
Yeah, I guess they didn't have a lot of black people in Northern Europe at that era.
I think it was pretty unheard of. That said, I will never dismiss the power of people like this are from this land, and migrates around, and so you hear about things like this and that.
Yeah.
You
get tales from because it's all connected by land. So
it's like, hey, so and so's got a new story, man. Oh man, I want to hear this new story. I don't want to hear the same old story all over again. Tell me this new one. And I think that's very much how stuff spreads. It probably changes a whole lot. You get weird things like, I believe the first people who saw elephants, the first European colonists who saw elephants, related it back, and everyone thought they actually had like a trumpet, not just like a proboscis, but an actual trumpet at the end of their face. Because I've seen some images of that. It's like they actually thought, when the trumpeting sound coming from the end of the long notes, it's like, oh, they actually have a trumpet out there. What's crazy?
Yeah, and I suppose also in that era, they might see other tribes of humans as it didn't matter to them that they were human. Like, it was just if you weren't part of
if you're not us, you're them.
Tribe, it didn't matter. Like there was none of this. Like nowadays we have sort of panhumanism. We all believe, and it's rightly, we are all the same species.
Yeah, compared to the other species of like monkeys, you go look at different types of monkeys. We don't even qualify as different, anything like races. We're guess best would be phenotypes, on a certain perspective, and that is about it.
Yeah, but of course, from their perspective in those days, like if you were a Danish tribe or whatever, your own people were human to you, but any other tribe,
all that you need to do is speak a different language, and you've suddenly become them, not us. So whoa,
that's why we have morality tales that often talk about mixing cultures. Like you get tales
Swan Maiden sort of things.
It's like, it turns out those guys across the water weren't actually that bad.
Well, how does it work when you work with someone that's clearly not a person?
The Good Samaritans,
like a story so and so falls in love with a fairy, and but he doesn't know she's a fairy, and so she makes the thing, I'll marry you, but you can never see me on Sundays. Which is when she changes into the fairy form, bathes, and does all, standard hygiene routines. And then one day his curiosity gets the best of him. He looks in, she's a fairy, oh my goodness. And then all of a sudden, horrible misfortune, happens. The entire house collapses, and she, goes wailing away, steals the kids away, never to be seen again. In which case, you could interpret fairy to be another word for other type of person, not one of us.
Yeah.
Was it intended that way, or is it just how we're weirdly seeing it from our different cultural perspective?
I don't know.
Maybe somebody just wants to say, what if somebody did marry a fairy? Wouldn't that be weird? But fairies can change themselves so that you can't tell. So how would that work? Mm-hmm. And so the guy comes up with a wonderful story. He's like, it's just a fun little story about, like, a person marries someone else, turns out she's a fairy.
Well, it's also one of these things where if you, like, mysteriously a woman decided to leave her husband and take her kids with her.
Dude, she was a fairy, man. It wasn't anything about me being a bad husband. She was totally a fairy, and I caught her being a fairy, and so she trashed the house and took off with the kids. But that's okay, because the kids were technically fairies, too, so I guess we all learned a valuable lesson. Make sure your wife's not a fairy. That's totally a lesson we learned, right? Yeah? Yeah, okay. So, yeah, there might be a cover story aspect of that, too. I won't lie. But yeah, when it comes to stuff like D&D, though, I think there's very much unintended consequences because some races, start off as like a villain. We got to have some villains, and so it winds up being the entire race is a villainous race. Mm-hmm. In which case, it just happens to have, it's okay to kill all green-skinned things.
Well,
it's like, oh, geez, that looks kind of bad when you switch green to any other skin tone that you happen to exist in, conventional reality.
What you see, though, in fiction, depending, like, some are better than others, but in the authors, like in the official D&D stuff, like, Bob Salvatore wrote an entire series with the Drow as the main hero.
The one thing. I mean, in 5th edition, they even mentioned it was like the one, saving grace, of the horrible Drow race. Is the one elf, Drizzt Do'Urden, who has done so many good deeds.
So maybe that doesn't help because that's just the exception.
Yeah. But at least he does raise the possibility that, no, it's not just a blanket, they're all this. There's nuances and subtleties and maybe even reasonings. And he delves into, like, why are they these evil, villainous people? And so it comes like, a bit more. It's just kind of how they have to be. Maybe they want to be other ones, but each one is, like, locked in because as soon as they show a sign of weakness, bam, backstabbing.
Yeah.
They both want to gain ground, and they don't want to, get and stab themselves. So they are locked societally in this way. They can't be anything else because they won't allow each other to become anything else. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a very interesting lesson to be learned about that. You could relate that to a lot of decades throughout modern history. Is where it's like it's like the Red Menace or thing. We're so afraid everyone might be a commie, and so no one's allowed to be anything other than a patriotic American. Otherwise, we will rat you out, and you will be on the blacklist of commie stuff, and you will never see any jobs. So everyone's got to be in that little level of paranoia, and you got to always conform to this, even if everybody wants to not be that.
Well, and the exact same thing happened in Russia with people like wanting to. Rat on their neighbors, like, he's, I heard he has Western sympathies, and then, the neighbor disappears.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is everyone wants to be on the good side of the KGB. No one wants to, all of a sudden, fall on the bad end of Stalin and get erased from pictures and have their, oh, no, he never existed. I have no idea who that person is. Because that happened. I've seen the stuff where it's like, here's Stalin next to his best buddy. Best buddy turns out to have Western sympathies, and all of a sudden, bam, it's someone else in the photos. Or, when he's sitting on the side, they just completely erase him from all the photos. He is no longer there. He never was. That's kind of scary. I can understand why people decided to, I guess I should see who's got any sort of Western sympathy, and just because I don't want that to happen to me.
Yeah. And they turn people against each other.
And so that's telling the story of the Drow elves and how they may not want to be as they are, but none of them are willing to let anyone slip out from that cycle of who is what and who can be what. That makes you think more. It's like maybe that explains the people who are the other. Maybe that explains the Iron Curtain Soviets at the time, and so maybe they're not so much of another because I can now understand them to some degree. In which case, the lesson isn't quite a morality thing. It's more of a, there is no us, them, there's only we.
Yeah, well, I'd call
which
that
I think
a
is
moral, of some kind, yeah.
I wouldn't see this as an objective like good, evil sort of moral, but it's definitely a humanizing lesson to learn. Mm-hmm. So I think that might be the best way to interpret stuff like D&D in many cases. It's not about, don't trust people of, like style X or, feature X. It's, more of learn to differentiate and find out why.
Sure, well, I mean...
Before you hack and slash everything else into bits and pieces.
Of course, D&D is difficult because it's very fast-paced and it's just...
Well, like it can be.
Are they trying to kill us? Yeah. Yes, okay, kill them back. Are they not trying to kill us? No, okay, we can probably get away or something.
Okay, bring the bard up. Okay, no longer killing. Bard comes up. Let's do some parlay here. Okay, time for fighting. Bard goes into the back row. Everyone bring out the weapons.
Yeah, so I don't know how many lessons, but no, you can learn lessons from.
I think there's a lot of good lessons to learn. I think you just have to be careful about what you're seeing in that case. I think that might be our best fundamental conclusion from this is the lessons you're seeing in the story might not be the lessons they want it to be, and so sometimes you're going to have to sit down and really think things through before you get the lesson or the moral from the story. Like a lot of the older, stories, they take place under a very different set of mentalities. In which case, you do have to sit down, double check, and get into the mindset of what was going on back then.
Yeah. All right. Well, since we're nearing the end of the podcast, I want to remind our listeners that we have an email address, thesimulationist@gmail.com. That's all one word, thesimulationist@gmail.com.
No underscores or anything like that.
Nothing of that nature. You can also comment on our Facebook page, facebook.com/thesimulationist. And our YouTube page is youtube.com/thesimulationist. And anywhere you find our podcast, iTunes and stuff, there's like little boxes you can put reviews or stars or anything like that. Those are definitely appreciated very much. And, of course, tell your friends. Let your friends know.
Now, unfortunately for the reviews and rating stuff, we have not been able to implement our dwarf-based system, so it is likely stars or just numbers.
Someday.
I would just like to break out of any 5-point grading system, honestly. It seems a little too casual. I'd like to see...
it's not a big deal, but I just think it's fun to just screw with it a little bit.
That's kind of why I liked, Ebert's, 4 stars sort of thing. Because, one, it's not a 5-star thing, and he always rates it on how much of it it could have been. If the movie isn't that much, but then again, it never had much potential, it might still get 2.5 stars. If the movie could have been so much more, but they completely botched the moral of it, 1.5-star tops. Okay, so I like that he did at least put that spin on his things. Like, could have been great, but they really fell short of what they had all available to them. So, on the other hand, this one had like a limited budget, and it totally told a great story. 3.5 stars. Man.
Okay, cool.
So, congratulations, Ebert, on at least breaking the mold in that perspective. You get a lot of flack from people on the internet, but at least you were doing something different.
So if we left any glaring holes or just forgot to cover something moral-wise, the moral of the story, if you have something to add, do send us that email, thesimulationist@gmail.com, or tweet at me at spaceboot1, spaceboot1 on Twitter, and let me know what you thought or if you have further things to add. And we're always happy to hear from you. And
if you found a really nice, different ending to Red Riding Hood that's completely different and absolutely just changes all the lessons to be learned in there, I'd kind of like to hear about that one. I mean, especially with some of these older ones, there's a lot of different ways to tell them and a lot of different endings, and the subtle permutations as things go around, sort of thing. I'd love to hear that sort of stuff. So if you know a way to completely change, the Red Riding Hood thing, go for it.
Indeed. So, do you have final thoughts on that?
Well, what's the moral of the story?
The moral
of the story is that the moral might not be what you're seeing. Sometimes you have to double check to make certain that what they're trying to get across is what you're actually picking up.
Yeah, and I like to say that every story has a moral, but also the readers will bring their own moral into it, and they'll bring their own value judgments onto what they see happening in the story, and sometimes they might have a different conclusion than the author might have intended, and that's okay too, but also it helps if you're an author to be sort of anticipate that and say, okay, are people going to interpret this the wrong way? So
that's it. I think not all games necessarily have a moral to them. Start off with World of Warcraft. What's the moral of collecting 5 wolf pelts?
That's not a moral, but there is a moral in the
towards the end game sort of stuff.
The backstory of it with Arthas and all that. He turns to evil, and what happens there.
I don't think his reasons were entirely believable, but whatever. It allowed the Horde to have Undercity, and that's a weird, complex, crazy little place to be. So whatever. I'm okay with that.
I think there's morals in there in that section of the game.
But not every quest will have a moral.
Some will. Some
definitely will. Some arcs, that they have will have morals, but not everyone. So sometimes when you're playing a zone, or, in a video game, and it's like, whatever, kind of boring, whatever, I just want to finish it. Try and figure out, it's like, is this trying to teach me a moral, or is this just another way of getting experience? Is this just like a time waster?
Yeah,
think about that.
Well, no, because the moral, like, it might be a bad moral, but the moral of your grindy quest is, if you want to succeed, you need to work hard and grind all those things and get them done.
Kill 10 of each of these beasts and then come back to see me again.
Yeah. So there is a bit of a moral in that you're trying to do something to achieve gold or whatever.
You gotta work for it.
You gotta work for it. But maybe that might not be the best moral, because sometimes grinding is dumb.
Well, if you look at the old Barons sort of stuff, it was there was a lot of accusations that they put the stuff far away just so, because it was at such a low level you weren't likely to have a mount, especially in the vanilla game when you didn't get it till like the very end. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of it was spent going from A to B to get this stuff done. Then it was like very much a time waster. They just want to have you occupy the time because, another month, 15 more bucks, please.
I believe that, but also, like, it's important from a game designer. If you've designed this beautiful, because the Barons, I remember, like, it's a little bit different now, but it was very stunning the first time I looked at it. It was very, like...
I do recall it.
Like, that's so awesome, there's this bluff here, and there's this, there's an oasis here.
And they got a goblin town over there.
Goblin town was great. So it was really, like, I like that sense of, like, now you got to go... So it's drawing you to different parts of the map without necessarily being sprawling, like, it's not linear, right? Like in some video games.
Although there was some areas where, people would like work out, like, okay, you need to make 4 complete circles around. You pick up the quests here in these groups, and then you make the circuits as you go out. Your 4 different circuits, and then you get it all done with maximum efficiency, minimum time spent in Barons chat, which is moral of the story: don't listen to Barons chat.
Yeah, but I can see it, from a designer's point of view, you want people to enjoy what you've created, what the artists have created, and you want people to see the scenery, right?
On the other hand, you also want people to play the game, and are they really playing the game when they put their character on auto-run in that direction just to get back to turn in the quests? There might be some lessons that could be learned about proper quest design, but that was never the intended point. Which might be a nice corollary. The lesson that you're learning might not be what they wanted you to get, but that doesn't make it any less valid a lesson. Sometimes there's something to be learned about how they did it wrong.
Yeah.
Something to consider. And I think you'll have about 7 days to consider it before we come back with a new moral of the story.
We will be back indeed in 7 days. My name has been Josh Trelevin.
I've been Ryan Kirkby.
And send money.
Live happily ever after.